Good. So, let's go into our action.
The ranked season for Season 11 is about to begin tomorrow. Everyone will be taking to solo queue to grind for their first spot on the ranked ladder. In honor of the start of Season 11 solo queue, I thought we should take a look at the best solo queue player in the entire world in order to understand what goes on through his head when he's playing League of Legends.
I don't know, like I would have to check if Dopa is really still the best solo queue player in the world, you know? I don't know what the hell has been happening with him. I don't know what he's doing, so but sure, let's assume Dopa is the best solo queue player in the world. I still think that one of the best one was Felix, you know? Felix is really good at climbing the ladder. But I don't know too much about the Korean and China solo queue to be able to know. But yeah. No, Dopa is not considered the best player in the world.
Today, we will be talking about Dopa and his concepts. In this video, Dopa explains exactly what goes on through his head and what exactly his concepts are when he's playing
Good that we know how to, read Korean, guys.
Legends. There are thousands of different concepts in League of Legends, he says. And if you want to get better at League, all you have to do is understand these concepts. I'm not that good at League of Legends. Really, I'm not. I just understand these concepts where other players do not.
Okay, that's true. And let me explain how this works. So how this works is that, we have a certain skill. And this skill is called League of Legends, okay? Or playing the game, okay? And this skill is made up of a lot of points, okay? That we can break down. So playing the game can be break down in a lot of concepts, a lot of skills, right? And one of the biggest problems when, for example, let's say someone is watching a challenger player play, right? And they see an action happen, they don't know like which things he considered before, which variables he considered before, right? When making that decision, okay? Of what to do. So one of the biggest problems in lower elo is why they cannot understand higher elo is because they don't know all the variables that exist when making a decision. So what happens, right, is that when we are learning the game, right, what we can do is we can slowly learn this concept, this, these skills, and when we learn them, we can actually, look at the situation, split it up into these variables, and then see how the variables interact between each other. Okay.
Not. Here's what a concept looks like in League of Legends. A concept is something that can be defined as a win condition in the game. Dopa's most played champion and his most infamous champion is Twisted Fate. One of the best ways that he gets a lead on Twisted Fate is something he calls level 5 2Qs. On Twisted Fate, as soon as you hit level 5, you want to immediately queue the next wave that's incoming so you can queue the backline minions as soon as possible. It does not matter whether or not you hit the melee minions and get that gold, so long as you're able to take an early back. Once Dopa is able to get this early back, he's able to go back to lane earlier on, and he has a potion, HP, and mana lead compared to his laner. The opposing laner will obviously want to go back to base.
Well, this information is interesting, but what does he want to say,
Back to base as well. When Dopa is able to hit this goal point successfully, he is essentially able to get a guaranteed ultimate that is going to do something on his team.
If, you know the matchups, if, like, there's many ifs, like, it's not 100% guaranteed, but the thing is, in higher challenger, what happens, there's way more situations to exploit, and when we exploit the situation, it creates a snowball effect. What in lower elo, right, even if we give this Jace 3 more kills, he might die, 2 minutes later.
When Dopa is able to consistently hit this concept, he's able to gain a lot of pressure in the mid lane and is allowed to use his Twisted Fate ultimate much more freely. If the enemy laner just wants to back, he can't follow on the roam. Dopa's
well, that's by you assuming that the enemy laner hasn't backed as well, right? So
also allowed to push in minion waves much quicker. Since the mid laner will hit level 6 before everyone else, you're going to be able to apply the most pressure out of any other player in the game. This is the
you're gonna be able to apply the most pressure out of any player in the game. Like, what is this explanation? Like, this is just feels like a clickbait video, Like, what are you trying to teach? You know, play TF, push 2 Qs on level 5, and then suddenly you're gonna, you know, ultimate, it's gonna work, and you're gonna be the most influential player in the game. Like, what is this? Doesn't work like that.
This is the basic idea of a concept. A goal point or a...
Okay, that's good now. That's good now. So basically that example was kind of like an idea how you want to win the game. Okay.
On your champion. Obviously, every single champion in every single matchup will have different concepts and different win points.
That's true.
But so long as you are thinking about which win points you're going to be using, but no matter what champion you're going to be playing for ranked Season 11, you want to think about what concept and what win points are important.
I kind of don't like these words that he's using, like concept, win points, you know. Like, basically it's just about, you know, like how we do in League of Legends is basically every single champion, right? Every single champion has weaknesses, okay? You know, weak and strengths, right? And what he's trying to say, which I would explain it a little bit different, is that what we should do is how Dopa does it is he identified the weakness of TF and he identified the strengths of TF. And what he did is he created a strategy to push out his strengths to his maximum to be able to make a difference in the game and have a positive outcome, right? So what you want to do in Season 11 is the exactly same thing. Whatever champion you're playing, identify what are his weaknesses, what are his strengths, and try to maximize situations where his strengths are going to come into play and you're going to be able to use them to get an advantage.
Another important concept to Twisted Fate is minion vision manipulation. Essentially, in League of Legends, minion vision is lost the instant when they die. You calculate approximately the amount of time it takes for your abilities to kill the wave, and then you pretend to roam to one side of the map while the minion is still alive and giving the enemy team vision, and as soon as the minion dies, you change course and go to the other side of the map. This concept works for pretty much any other lane, but is the most important for roaming mid laners such as Twisted Fate. Dopa talks about several different concepts during the video, but
do you guys understand why this works in higher elo, but why this would never work, I mean never, probably almost never work in lower elo? Why? Because your mid laner in silver doesn't even see, you know, he doesn't even know what you're doing. So if you get pinged in silver when you do something like this, it's already good, right? But you know what this is called a mind trick. So this is how we do is we play chess, okay? So how it works is that what we do, you know, is we assume, okay? So when we play against a beginner, what we need to say is he doesn't know, and when I do a move, right? You know, his response is like, we don't know his response because he's bad, right? When he's good, when someone we're playing is good, we know that if we make this move, he will make this move, right? So that we know that we can then make this move, okay? And the higher we go in the chess department, the more moves in advance you're gonna have to look into. And the one that sees the most moves in advance, okay, is gonna have an advantage. So what Dopa is doing here is he's basically knowing that the mid laner is looking at where he's moving. And the mid laner understands that TF likes to, you know, go and roam around, right, to get kills. So what he's counting on is when he goes Fog of War is that the mid laner is gonna actually ping and provide his team, right, the wrong information so that this trick is gonna then work, and then Dopa is gonna land a gank on the other lane because the other lane is gonna think that he went topside. You guys see? So it's like a more multiply-step process, and no, this is not gonna work for every elo because, you know, if you get, you know, if a mid laner pings that you're missing at level 1, right? You know, that doesn't happen in bronze and silver, in gold, you know? Like, so for most people, this trick is not going to apply because the players you're facing are just not going to be good enough to be able to ping you and trick their own teammates, because also their own teammates, right, are probably not going to see the mid lane ping, or they're going to ignore it, and they're not going to adapt their matchup based on how mid lane is being played out, okay? So this concept, yes, in higher level, very, very smart Dopa, good job. In lower elo,
but the two most important concepts are minions and attention theory. One big problem that average players have is they don't understand when they should go in for a safe trade against their lane opponent.
So now we went from him tricking someone to trading. I don't like this transition.
If you break down laning phase, you can break it down into 3 important concepts or goals that you need to hit in order to win the lane. You want to successfully last hit
Okay, so what I really dislike so far about this video is that it tries to touch upon so many topics. Like so many topics. I thought first that it's gonna be about mindset, about strategy. Now it's about concept. Now we go into details into concept. Now we're going into, you know, trading in laning phase. You know, like it's going like deeper, you know, and it's going from a very big level, right, to a very small level, you know?
the enemy minions. You want to deny your enemy last hitting as many of your minions as possible.
So the reason why I don't like this approach is because what happens is that when we're going from a very big topic to a very small topic very fast, right? Like a lot of things get lost in the translation, you know?
And you have to harass the enemy while dodging enough damage.
So successfully last hitting enemy minions, true. Deny enemy from last hitting, true. Harassing while avoiding damage, true. Good. You see, so he said this is the 3 most basic points of laning, right? So somebody can make a different, you know, he can put maybe 5 points, 6 points, 7 points, right? It all depends on the perspective, you know? Like it depends on the elo you're teaching, depends, you know, there's no basic. Everybody has their own opinion about
yourself.
basic.
These are the 3 most basic points of laning. If you know these 3 simple facts, then you can use these in your advantage against an opponent. Let's say you're against a skill shot champion like Xerath. If Xerath is also familiar with these 3 concepts, he will obviously want to harass you while you're going for a last hit. So when you're going for a last hit on a minion, you can expect that a skill shot might come out. If you make it look like you're going for the last hit and you can bait out the Xerath Q, by sidestepping and dodging the ability, you make him lose mana.
With the mana, it's kind of iffy right now because the mana items are pretty good right now. Now, in terms of the concept that he's explaining, true. You can make him dodge. I mean, you can make him use his spell. You know, mostly what you're gonna see in lower elo is that what we can do is we can see if someone chooses to just push or if someone chooses to just harass you. You know, and when we identify right which kind of plan he has, harass you or, you know, push the wave, we can then, you know, abuse that fact of knowing. So if he just uses spells to push the wave, then what we can do is, well, you know, we can trade on to him during the times when his ability is on cooldown, and when we see, for example, that he's trying to harass us, we can attack the minion wave to get the push, right? And, you know, because we know the skill shots are gonna go to us, we can then dodge a little bit more to basically dodge the damage, and by getting the push, we're gonna be able to then, you know, trade better when his abilities are on cooldown.
It's the ability to harass you efficiently for the next few seconds. This is the basic concept of dodging skill shots in lane. But you can take this concept a little bit further. Say your jungler is a very strong early game ganker, and you know he's going to be coming mid lane at around level 3. Instead of positioning yourself to the side of minions, you can position yourself into your own minion wave. That way, Xerath's skill shot, no matter what, is going to be hurting your minions. And whether or not he wants to, this ability will push the minion wave. By pushing the minion wave...
Do you see what he's doing? Basically, we can see that he's taking a concept and he's trying to add variable after variable after variable after variable. And the question I'm gonna ask at the end is, what did he actually wanna tell us? You know, because that's the most important thing when trying to teach someone, right? Is what kind of information that he actually want to teach us. Because now he's talking about the junglers. Now he's talking about lane position. Now, did he mention the 3 basic concept junglers? Did he mention lane position? Right? He didn't, right? But now he included it into his explanation, you know? So if you just add these variables in, of course, we can go into deeper decisions, right? But what is it that you wanted to tell me, right? Other than these things exist, you know?
Xerath will have to walk up further in order to hit his first concept, which is last hitting minions. This puts him at a disadvantage, giving you an easier gank. The inverse is also of course true. If you're in a matchup where pushing a minion wave to the tower is very important, that's when you want to stand on the side in order to dodge skill shots so that those skill shots don't hit your minion.
If, of course, you know, the enemy is rooting for you. This is what I said about, you know, identifying, you know, especially in low railers, is the player trying to hit you with a skill shot? Is he trying to hit, you know, the minion wave, right? So, you know, when we know that, we can then appropriately move ourselves to, you know, play against this plan that he has.
Minion wave. There are perhaps thousands of different concepts.
That is true. There's a lot of them, you know. I tried to do it for jungle. I haven't finished it yet, you know. I've only finished early game for junglers, and there's about, you know, I'm not gonna go into it how I structured it, but it's gonna be in my beginner to pro. Like, all the steps and all the skills are gonna be highlighted one by one. But mainly there's a lot of them, right? But the thing is that every single individual one is not complicated. The thing becomes, because there's so many, when you put all of them together, you know, and you say relationships between those variables, then it becomes really interesting, you know, and then it becomes complicated. And very smart people, what they do is they know how to take a complicated decision, okay, and then break that decision down into, you know, variables that consist of that decision. And then, based on the variables, we can judge every variable, how important it is to us, you know, and then see what the outcome of that decision looks like, okay?
Anyone, not even players like Dopa, to remember and to utilize all of them. This is why Dopa talks about his second most important concept, which is attention theory.
So his first was game plan. And we talked about... I want to pause because, you know, we only have two, right? Probably because 5 minutes. But with the first one, he said you should have a game plan. And I think what his idea was with this example, what TF, is to take a game plan. He showed the Dopa game plan about 2 Qs into a roam, right? And then he tried to explain, I think, how to push a minion wave and which variables go into pushing a minion wave. But I'm not exactly sure, you know, if that's what he wanted to say, you know?
What is Dopa's attention management? You can break it down into something like this. Imagine you have a very busy day ahead of you. You have an appointment at the doctor's, you have to go to the store and buy something, you got a really important day at work. When you have a lot of different things to do, your brain will get distracted and be unable to perform everything with 100% attention focused to it.
That is true.
Attention focused to it. When you have so many different concepts in League of Legends, you're going to have to devote a certain amount of attention to each different concept.
That is true.
When you play League of Legends, you're always multitasking. If you imagine your attention as 100 points, you're going to have to devote at least 70 points into last hitting minions, trading with the opponent, and keeping track of their cooldowns, and any other aspects of the matchup that you're playing into.
This is very opinion based.
Ideally, another 30 of your attention points should be devoted to tracking the enemy.
So 70 to micro level play, 30 towards jungle tracking. So we only have 100, right? What about macro decisions? What about, you know, what can we say? Tracking where the support goes. What about, you know, like, I know it's just an example, but I don't know.
Enemy jungler along with your own jungle in order to plan out when you will be receiving and getting ganked. Now, this of course is all in theory, but in practice, this is rarely what ever happens. Let's take a champion like Lucian for example. Lucian mid, while he's not the best laner anymore, he can still bully and take over a lane against many champions. One of Lucian mid's worst matchups is actually Seraphine, who's essentially a support mage with a fairly weak laning phase. In theory, Lucian should be able to handily win this matchup, but in reality, that almost never happens.
Seraphine beats Lucian? I would have to look into that. Interesting. Like, I can see here 29, I mean this example, 97 to 55 CS. You know, Lucian died 3 times. I don't know who's winning here, you know?
happens. In fact, Seraphine has one of the highest win rates against Lucian mid. Dopa's attention
Highest win rate, where? I don't know, what? Challenger? Diamond? Silver? You know, like, the problem I have a lot of times is that things are just getting thrown out. And, like, give me some proof. Give me where did you get that information. It's like me saying TF is the best, you know, the best roamer in the game. Like, how do you know that? Right? Like, should I just believe you? Like, again, the example he's showing, I'm going based off his example. Lucian is 40 CS ahead. He has push right now and he died already 3 times. You know?
theory explains why this is the case. When you have to play a mechanically intensive champion like Lucian, you have to devote a lot more of your attention into thinking about the small concepts of laning phase. You have to individually click on each minion to CS.
So what he's basically, if I understand, talking to, like, what he's basically trying to say is that attention, you have attention points. And because Lucian is a champion that requires, that has more concepts, more things to think about because he has to pressure, because he has to push, he's harder to play. So that's why Seraphine, like an easier champion that has more straightforward things that she does, can beat him. If he's gonna go into that way. I'm assuming, based on what he just said about Lucian.
It has to be in a position to be able to take advantage of your strong early laning phase, to be able to snowball and get good trades against the enemy laner. You have to make sure that you always back off at the most opportune time so you don't take too much minion harassment. When you have to play a champion...
Individually clicking on each minion, we don't have to do that. You know, there's something called, you know, a tech move. Consistently considering positioning. If we have proper ward setup, Lucian doesn't even think about, you know, mid lane, well, like consistently positioning. He just wards one side with the pressure he has, and then he plays on that side, and because of his mobility, if a jungler ganks that doesn't have that good mobility, Lucian can just escape freely, you know? Taking good trades, yes, he has to think about taking good trades. Like, every champion wants to think about taking good trades, right?
With so many different concepts, you have to devote so much of your attention to just piloting the champion.
Okay, so that's the stuff that I said, right? So it's basically what he's saying is, because he's mechanically intensive, you have to, you know a lot about these things, you know, when to trade and stuff to really make him work. Which means that in lower elo, right, because players are not good enough to mechanically pilot him, you know, they might be beaten by an easier champion like Seraphine, if I understood him correctly.
This means you don't have enough attention to focus on all of the other fundamental aspects that everyone has to focus on when playing League of Legends. If Lucian players have to devote 90 points of their attention into just the laning phase, they're not going to have enough to be able to properly keep track of the enemy jungler. Meanwhile, Seraphine players just have to...
Honestly, true, it's like, that's how the champion works. Like, you wanna use the time when he's strong, you know, and in early game he's really strong in the laning phase, and you wanna use that strength as much as possible, and I understand this, but I'm gonna let him finish.
6 spells in order to clear the wave. Not that hard to button mash your 2 wave clear abilities, so there's not much to think about.
Well, it's not just about pressing 2 buttons to clear the wave, you know. Why? Because if you play to beat Lucian, or, you know, win a, let's say, matchup that Seraphine is good into, right, then it's not just about pressing 2 buttons and clearing the wave, you know. So now you just made something like, you took a champion that his plan is to win early game harder, and you took a champion that against Lucian his goal is just to survive and scale, right? And I don't think that's a fair comparison. Like, compare Lucian to another lane bully, compare Seraphine to another mage, you know? Like, and the position in the lane, you know, Lucian pressures, and Seraphine in that matchup, you know, just tries to survive because she scales pretty good, you know? It's not that she completely outscales Lucian, but her power is way better where more people are involved, you know? While Lucian is really strong when it comes to 1v1, 1v2, right?
During the laning phase for the Seraphine player. Since Seraphine needs to devote so much less attention in the laning phase, she can think more about setting up a gank for her jungler and shut down Lucian's early snowballing. This is why one-tricks are so successful in Dopa's experience. Dopa calls himself a two-trick player, meaning he only plays two champions. When you're so used to a champion and their basic concepts, you no longer have to devote so much of your attention.
Okay, that's a good example. That's a good example, right? So basically what he's saying is when you master a champion, right? What happens? Okay, let me explain to everybody that's gonna watch this. So basically it's like this. So I always use the example of driving the car. So when you first time when you go and sit in a car, right? You know, when you're doing a driving license, right? What happens? Everything's new to you. You know, like how you move your steering wheel, how you press the gas, you know, how you do brakes, where's the, you know, changing gears, you know, like everything is new, right? So what happens when you try to sit in a car and someone would try to talk to you, right? You would be like, whoa, 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 whoa. You would be like, your body wouldn't know what to do with the other things in the car so you don't get into an accident, right? So what happens is when we, you know, start driving a car, we have all these things we have to think about. But the more we drive the car, right? The more we drive the car, the more used we get to, you know, your body, like when to, you know, move the steering wheel, when to change gears, when gas, when, you know. And what we start to do is from basically thinking about something, we start to make, you know, a mechanic out of it. Basically, what happens is there's a, you know, we create a neurologic connection in our brain, right? That connects the nerves so that the brain, because it's lazy, doesn't want to think about every single time you move the steering wheel. It recognizes patterns and when this action is required, you know? That's why when we fall down, for example, you know, let's say we stumble or something and fall down, what happens is our, you know, arms go forward to try to, you know, catch ourselves, right? So we protect our head. That's like a defensive mechanism. So in the thing with the car is the more we drive the car, the more mechanics we build. And what happens is now when we're at the point where we do all of those things without actually actively thinking about it, now we suddenly have time and we're driving, we are keeping attention of everything, and someone says, hey man, how are you doing? You can look at him, you can talk to him, you can talk about your family, friends, right? So you see, the more we play the champion is the same thing with the car. When we get used to the champion and what he does, things repeat itself. Your brain learns those patterns, it recognizes them, and it starts doing things unconsciously for you because it wants to leave you more free space, which you can then, again, occupy by thinking about other things, you know? Which can be, for example, tracking the jungler, right? So that is true in terms of attention span. Again, I don't really like I understand his point, but I think it could have been done with the attention span a little bit, like the Lucian Seraphine example, you know, like I commented on before.
Into that aspect of the game. You can focus more on other concepts that exist in order to improve your game. So for Season 11, think about the concept.
So basically, if we do use the same car example, right, is like, let's say Seraphine is like a self-driving car, right, that has all these things, you know, and let's say Lucian, right, requires way more attention, maybe, I don't know, a car that's very hard to drive, you know, maybe a very, very fast car. I'm not that experienced in cars, but, you know, so to get used to a very complicated car, you need more time than for a simple car that would, let's say, drive for you. So yeah, let's say a race car, right? So because of that, right, you will master the self-driving car way more, but that can in turn mean that your driving skills are worse, right? But from a newbie, you don't always want to start with a race car. You want to build yourself up, right?
Of whatever champion you're going to be playing, perfect, master them, stick to those concepts, and learn new ones. Thanks for watching.
Okay, let's see.
Guys, this video was really fun to research and look into. The video itself is mostly based off of a Reddit thread that was posted a while back about a translation league in general, and you can check out the full link in the description. One thing that I found really funny and interesting about the amount of detail that Dopa goes into is about his physical PC setup. When he plays against opponents that are very, very challenging, he has to feel like he has everything perfect and nothing distracting him. His desk is perfectly level, almost like a build.
That's different humans. Different humans work better in different environments. Some want, when they really want to get focused, like a lot of chaos on their table, right? Some want really, really order, so you can't enter my room, right? So that's really dependable on the person. And what Koreans have shown, I've seen that in LCK on stage, you know, like coming with those meters and measuring the distance between his mouse and the keyboard, right? Because he was a person, I don't know which player exactly that was, that really wanted everything on the spot so that the brain would know exactly the distance between the mouse and the keyboard so that the moves in the game would fit that, you know? But that's a lot dependable on, you know, the person itself.
Meter, his screen has to be exactly 47.3 centimeters away from his desk. He has a tape on the side of his chair to make sure that his chair is in the exact same position every single time.
And why do people do that? Is because they want to create the same scenario, right? They want to take out as many variables as possible. Make it the same. That's how experiments work, right? You want to make as many constant as possible, you know, so that you can actually bring out the variables you're actually interested in studying, you know? Same thing works in experiments, right? As many constants, and you want to just that variable, so you see if that variable influences the outcome of, you know, a certain action.
Obsesses over the sensitivity of his mouse to the point where he won't even play League of Legends if it's not exactly perfect. Obviously, you don't need to go to such extreme lengths to get better at League of Legends, but it does show the level of commitment that someone as good as Dopa is willing to go in order to get that competitive edge. So, you know, think about the different concepts in this game, and good luck in Season 11.
Yeah, so this message at the end summed up really, really good. Think about different things about the game. He didn't say have fun, and good luck in Season 11, right? So it's kind of like, okay, so the things is, the attention span thing was okay, but like I said, with the example of Seraphine, Lucian, I thought, like, I don't know, the thing that I explained, let's say with the car, you know, I touched upon the core issue about attention, you know, while I think with his example, you know, instead of him just saying, well, Lucian requires more mechanics, right? You know, and he's harder to pilot because of all his movement abilities and, you know, outplay potential, while Seraphine, right, has a more easier kit when it comes to last hitting, and she doesn't have to kind of destroy the enemy laner, you know? So it's kind of like the example that I've thrown with the cars. Now, the first one with the game plan, I like the thing he said about the game plan, but like I said, instead of talking generally about game plan, I felt like he went very into detail, trying to showcase the gameplay Dopa has, you know? And again, I feel like videos like this kind of show what exists, what Dopa is doing, but actually helping someone, you know, with this video, I think is very, very hard based on how it's structured and made, you know? So I wouldn't see any real value other than this is what Dopa does, you know? If the video would title, let's look at what Dopa does to win his games, really good. If the video would be like, I want to teach you something, you know, what is this? Actually, he says Dopa's philosophy for success. So he's not actually trying to teach someone something, you know? He's just trying to showcase Dopa's philosophy for success. So then it's fine in my book, you know? He just showed, the point about this video is just showing what Dopa does, you know? Not what you should be doing. So then it's fine, Okay, awesome. So if you guys like this video, you know, follow me on YouTube, you know, you can comment if you dislike it, tell me why you disliked it, and see you at the next reaction.